Animals. My name is Shannon Kutz, and I am an animal intuitive and sensitive, an animal communicator, and a Reiki master practitioner here at animallovelanguages.com. Those of you who are listening and can hear chirping along with the audio soundtrack, that is Pearl Kutz, my 23-year-old soulbird sidekick. He loves to be part of the introduction for our podcasts. And if you're watching the video, you know exactly whose face belongs with that name. So we are delighted today to be branching out a little bit here on Let's Talk to Animals. If you've been following along with us for the first season, first couple of seasons, actually, we've really been honing in on inviting talented animal intuitives and communicators to the show to share their personal stories, talk de-woo and demystify animal communication itself. How does it work? Who can do it? Why would you want to? And how can you start? And so for season 3, we're really tackling something that comes up so frequently in animal communication sessions, which is that we've got this great information. Now what? Now, what do we do with it? How can we help this animal who is opened up and shared from their heart what they want, what they need, where they're stuck, what would make them feel better? And so for season 3, I'm branching out and starting to invite a whole host of wonderful holistic animal care and pet care practitioners on a variety of different topics, working in different modalities. And today we have Miss Kezia Lechner, and she is with openintochange.com. And really, honestly, when Kezia and I first started talking, I had no idea what the heck she did. And it's been so cool to learn about the emotion code and the body code. So Kezia, welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of Let's Talk to Animals. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. One, I love your podcast. I've been listening for a while and I really love it. I think you're doing a wonderful service. It's a gift. It's a gift for animal lovers.
Thank you.
And it really is. It truly is.
Thank you.
There's just a lot of love, you know. You love animals, the people on love animals, the people listening love animals. It's a beautiful thing. And also, I personally love what I do. So I'm happy to be able to share some of what I do. Yes.
So we're, you know, and when you and I first connected, it was really more about just you wanting to introduce the work to me and share how it could benefit my clients, my pet clients, as well as my people clients, and perhaps benefit the clients of the other animal communicators that are part of Let's Talk to Animals and their pet and people clients. And so we've done some sessions with our dachshund, Flash Gordon. Those of you who've been listening for a while, you're probably familiar with some of the issues we're working on with Flash Gordon. And I have since started reading the books and I've started using it with myself, and it's really powerful. And it's powerful in a very fast way, which is exciting because we live in a fast-paced world, and some of the old school models of trauma release and emotional release and just intuitive awareness, it often feels like they can't keep up with the pace at which we need to change and adapt and evolve and activate to take advantage of opportunities, to show up on a day-to-day basis, feeling our best and being able to offer our best. And so that's really where I want to start. I'm not going to pretend like I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this for about 20 minutes. And I'm not going to assume that anybody that's listening to today's episode has any idea what we're talking about. Even if you do, it's always great to go back to basics and that beginner's mind. So Kezia, will you just take us back to the beginning, share a little bit about how you learned about Dr. Bradley Nelson and the emotion code and the body code, and just give us a little overview of what it is. What the heck are we talking about?
Yes, I would be very happy to. So I will say that I have loved animals, probably like you have, all my life. And at a certain point in my life, which I'll go into later when you ask about, you know, my background, but I became a Reiki master, and I did mostly work with people, but I also did some work with animals. And Reiki, as you know, being a Reiki master, is very beautiful and very potent. And yet for me with animals, I couldn't quite get the results I wanted. Also, people weren't so interested in having me do Reiki with their pets, and vets certainly at that point weren't interested. So I'm very, very happy at this point to be an emotion code practitioner, to be a body code practitioner, because they really let me not just work with people, but work with animals in a way that to me is quite unique and is I'll call it pet therapy. It really is a way, and I will explain what it is, but it is a way that I can, as a practitioner and someone who really has a heart connection with animals, can help identify emotions that have been stored, traumas that have been trapped in the body, in the mind, in the energy field, in the field, the whole complex, and really let me identify at what age they originated, and then to release them. So I will in a minute be happy to explain how that works, but essentially it lets me really work with trauma and emotional things that have happened, not just to animals who are rescued, because we could assume that there's some trauma, but also I work with animals. Animals come to me even from breeders, or, just because they aren't rescue and didn't come from a breeder, but they have fear issues, they have aggression issues, they have behavioral issues, they have things that are really impacting their life, impacting the lives of the people who care for them, love them. So I found it very effective. I've worked with a lot of animals. I will say more about that later, but yes, that's a brief explanation. And you can tell me if you want me to move into how it works yet or not.
Well, I want to stop for just a minute and share a personal story about that, because of course you and I worked with Flash Gordon, our standard wire-haired dachshund, and he came to us and had already had some trauma that we were completely unaware of, and that trauma happened before he came from a breeder, and it happened in his second and third weeks of life, and you and I worked really intensely on those times. And what was so surprising to me is that I had as an animal communicator, there are some things that there's information I have access to, but I don't always, it's about realizing that asking the right question is so important. And sometimes when it's our own animals, we have blind spots. And I really honestly had a blind spot when it came to, I was the first person to hold him. To me, he came to us as this furry, cuddly, perfect puppy. And trauma was the last thing. Trauma before he came to us, we knew the breeder. We'd worked with her before. The parents love standard wire-haired dachshunds. It's really hard to find them. So they worked with this breeder to get their second puppy after my mom lost her soul dog. And it just wasn't on my radar. And so when we started working with the emotion code and some things started coming up, it was really surprising to me. And what I found so fascinating is we started to see some shifts in his behavior pretty quickly. And last night, Kezia, not even kidding, he initiated play with me, and he literally played. And that was one of the big things we were trying to get to, is why would he initiate play and then pull back and then, act like he didn't know what he wanted to do. And so we're seeing these small changes, these shifts that happen relatively quickly. It's not that every single session, as you mentioned, is going to produce that. And with him, everything is subtle because he's now 7 years old, and that trauma has been there, since week 2. But just sharing, it's these kinds of energetic modalities, if you're listening or you're watching, you're kind of like, but I want the brass tacks and how does it work and the 4-step process. It's yeah, we'll get to that. And the best way to experience it is to experience it and actually schedule a session. And I'm going to encourage you guys to do that if you've never done it, opentochange.com. But we have to remember that these intuitive pathways, in the same way as animal communication, they have a mind, they have an intelligence of their own. and can help us access things that our mind will never think to ask the right question. It's just not even on our radar. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Like exactly, what do you expect? What is this thing that we're talking about? Who is Dr. Bradley Nelson and what's going on here?
Thank you. And I love the way you intro things. It's terrific, and I'm really happy.
Oh, thanks. I'm just rambling on, but I get excited about things, especially when they work. Like it's a good deal. We've been working with Flash for a long time, so it's really cool. Knowing what the issue is, knowing what the trauma is, and I actually hired one of my podcast guests to talk to Flash because I knew I had blinders on. And so we've done several animal communication sessions, so we kind of know what's going on now, but like getting to the root of it and actually clearing it, not realizing it's stuck in his second week of life. It's stuck at the time he was born, when he was, there are some things that are like, whoa, this is deep stuff. And your mind isn't going to believe it until you see the results. So that's the whole, this is this whole tying things together process where we're like, animal communication is a piece of it. It's an essential piece, but it's not, this is not the finish line here. This is not the mentality we're trying to, we're not cramming a cap on our head and going, okay, done now, out to conquer the world. It's like, now what do we do with this information? How do we help this animal? So what is it like how does just a brief, because we worked for a while, but like just a brief overview of the code. This sounds so mysterious. What is it?
So Dr. Bradley Nelson, who you referred to, is a chiropractor, and he realized in working with people, because he mainly worked with people, that he couldn't always resolve things physically, and he intuitively felt, and many of us know, there had to be other emotional components. We have different bodies. We have the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. He knew that there had to be trapped emotions. So he developed a chart, and I'll hold it up. Not everybody is watching the video, but I'll still hold it up. So he developed a chart that has 60 trapped, what he calls trapped negative emotions. Negative because they're unpleasant to feel. Panic, I'm sure that came up with Flash. Anger, guilt, hatred, 60. We have more, we feel more, they feel more, all beings feel more, but these are main ones. So I'm going to give a very brief explanation of how you would utilize it, how he utilized it, because otherwise it's not understandable. So let me do my best to do this in a short way. So chiropractors use what's called muscle testing. Many holistic vets use muscle testing. Many holistic practitioners use muscle testing. The most simple form of muscle testing is the sway test. If you stand up, and anyone who's listening or watching can try it, you stand up and you say your name to yourself out loud or silently, and you're going to usually fall a little forward. You're congruent with that. You're aligned with that. You're okay with that. Then you would say, if I said my name is Flash and I were standing, I would go backwards a little bit. I'm not congruent. I'm not aligned. Well, lie detector tests work not the same way, but still, the body gives responses. The body-mind, I'll say, body-mind complex gives responses. A chiropractor would use your leg or arm. Let's say you were in an office of a practitioner who did muscle testing, and I'll make this very short. You would hold your arm out, and like that, for those watching. The practitioner, you would just press down very slightly, and you would stay strong. If you said your name, my name is Kezia, strong. Then I say, my name is Flash, and actually, I'm applying the same pressure, and my arm is weak. It's a stressor to your body. If I were holding an allergen, it would be a stressor to me, stressor to my meridian system, stressor to my system, and it would register. My arm happens to go down a lot, but some people just a little bit. So people can access information In that way, like a communicator can directly connecting with the animal, but in this way, someone who's not an animal communicator, can connect, a practitioner can connect and get a yes/no answer. Strong is yes, no is weak. So you can access information, and I use that, I'm using that, and he used that. So I'll go back to what he did. So he was using muscle testing. Let's just pretend that we were using only emotion code, and then I'll describe the body code briefly. And we were, I won't use flash, but say, please take us to the emotions that underlie Cooper's aggression. And then I could quickly, and by myself, if for those watching, I'm using fingers, yeah, yes, no. So I can quickly ask, is it in column A? Is it in column B? Is it in column A? Is it in column B? Is it an odd numbered row? Is it an even? I can locate it quickly because it's quick. And then there's a grouping of 5 emotions, energies. They're really energies, but they show up as words. Then I can land on that one. Then using muscle testing, because I'm very intuitive, but I'm trying to be, as they say in shamanic language, a hollow bone when I'm muscle testing. I don't want my mind to drive it. I want it to be back. So then we come to panic underneath, as one of the things underneath aggression. I ask at what age for the purpose of this session did it originate? And then, is it weeks? Is it months? Is it years? Sometimes it could be in utero, something happened at birth. Or maybe this will sound strange, but it could be prior to birth. It could be inherited, also can be absorbed. This is a part that could sound strange to people. I could be taken to preconception, and that could be another lifetime, whatever. And then there's a release technique, and I won't go into that. It's not so important. Yeah. So, yeah. Do you have anything to add? I'll go on to describe the body.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you mention the intuition and being, the hollow bone and the clear channel, because what's happening, especially, we have a lot of folks who listen and watch who are highly intuitive. And I feel like there's always, once we realize we're highly intuitive, there's that curiosity gets activated, and we're always seeking new ways to deepen that intuition because it works. And we realize that if we can tune in at a deeper and deeper level to our intuition, that our life gets, if not easier, simpler and clearer, and we are able to process things that need processing and work through things that need working through with it's like the easy way, the hard way. Or do we want to sink down below the waves and let the deep ocean current carry us in, or do we want to flail to shore? And so it's like, for me, it is about realizing, the mind is going to try to kick in and go, oh, well, I resonate with grief. And so this is also a great way to practice. And I've been doing this as I've been clearing emotions for myself. It's about practice. Wait a minute. Am I really tuning into my intuition here? Or am I letting my mind drive the bus, pilot the surfboard, take me there the hard way? Because the goal in that purity of I loved how you said, for the purposes of this session, and having that pure intention. And when you're working with an animal, we're having this pure intention that we're really literally tapping into their primary energy stream. And it's for the highest good of the animal and or the human that we're working with. And so it's a great way to deepen your intuitive pathways and feel how the purity of, I'm big on intention, the purity of your intention can actually help you overcome that tendency to head up into the mind instead of staying down in the heart and the gut brain. So that's been a way for me to just, especially with my own animals, because the more we, it's so tempting to have those blinders on, and the more we can add these modalities into our toolkit and have, okay, well, I need to go work with this practitioner. Okay, I need to refer my client to this person. Or okay, I need to, some people may be listening to this and they want to learn it for themselves. And that's amazing. And it's there, so it's like really kind of getting out of our own way, getting out of our animals' way, and allowing their energy to guide us. And it's pretty darn cool when it happens. So you did mention there's the emotion code, and then there's also, we've done a little bit of this, you and I, when we worked together as well, but there's also the body code.
And actually, we were doing the body code.
Yep.
I'll explain more.
Yeah.
Now, the things you said are actually really helpful for me too, because it has me want to add a few things I forgot. So when I'm doing a session, I become a proxy. I connect with the animal's energy, and I know I'm connected, though I don't have to test it. But right now, I'm Kezia, right? But if I were connecting with Flash, and I'm not right now, then I would test strong. I haven't become him, but I can connect with him enough. People who do the emotion code and body code would say I'm connecting to the subconscious, whether it's the subconscious, whether it's the higher self, whether it's the field of intelligence or information. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But I will say, because I'm highly intuitive, as you are, then when I go into the ages, say an animal who's a rescue, there's no history known. Or even with Flash, there wasn't history about 2 weeks. So then I'm receiving pictures sometimes. I don't know if the animal is showing me or their mind, but I'm just asking questions. 2 weeks, did this have to do the human? We can dig in, we can uncover a kind of picture. Is it 100% correct? I don't know. I don't get to have validation, but it feels right. So the body code, I'll be fast with this. So the emotion code, a chart. Practitioners first become certified in the emotion code. You can't do the body code unless you're certified in this. You can purchase the book as you did and do it yourself. You can't charge then, but you can do it, and that's great. The body code, unlike something handheld, exists as an app on the computer. Anyone can actually purchase it on the discoverhealing.com website and use it, not do sessions. But so it's an app on the computer. It has 1,000 places that I, as a practitioner, can be taken. So I can be taken to energy, that's emotions plus. It'll take me further than the emotion code will. And we were doing that with Flash with some of the things. It could take me, even though I usually work with emotional things, but not always, it could take me to circuit and system, the body. It could take me to toxins. It could take me to pathogens. It could take me to misalignments, and it could take me to nutrition and lifestyle. So I'll quickly say it's the same technique. Please take us, and I say us because I'm on the phone with the person, and then the animals participating however they are, but they've been told. So to me, there's a triad. And so, I'm asking, please take us very directly to the underlying cause of Cooper's digression. And then using the body code, I'm using the computer. Is it on the left, right? I go to energy, emotions, I click on it, and then I'm more choices. So again, multiple ways I can navigate this multi-layered chart and find information, release maybe 10 to 12, sometimes more things during a session, uncover things, and release, uncover, understand, release. And also at the end, I'm usually giving some suggestions based on my intuitive read. So that's a quick explanation of the body code.
Well, it's fascinating. And you had mentioned earlier, oh, it might be at conception. I meant to jump in with this. It might be before conception, it might be a past life. And it's like, it's so easy to get hung up in terminology. And yes, it might sound weird to some people. Frankly, at this point, I'm figuring if somebody's still listening to Let's Talk to Animals, they're okay with woo, just like we are. I mean, one of my main intuitive teachers, Sonia Choquette, she's like, I love woo, I love weird. That's the cool place to be. That's the most interesting place to be. And for me, it's the same way, because whether it's through science or it's through spirit, I feel like at some point the two do converge, and we're really dealing with issues of semantics, of terminology. We can also talk about epigenetics. I mean, can emotions be inherited? Can they potentially change our DNA? Is there really such a separation between Eastern and Western, between the subtle and the gross or concrete? I don't think so. And I think it's really interesting that a movement specialist and a highly trained doctor of chiropractic is the founder of this program, but as I'm listening to this, and what I've found that's so fascinating is so many of my, my people clients, when I'm, of course, the pet is my primary client, but, we don't always tend to be so open to these sorts of things for ourselves. But when our animal is suffering, when our animal is hurting, and especially when it really feels like there's that language barrier, it's like, first of all, it's such a relief to have any information to work with. And two, we're willing to move mountains. We're willing to move them manually if we have to. It's really nice to have these aids and these different. Honey, I know he wants to see out. He says, I want out. I want up. You are so cute, and I love you so much. I do. Yeah, those of you who are watching the video are getting up close and personal. Mwah. So let's talk about that big elephant in the room question. I'm pretty fond of those too. It's like, how would a pet parent, especially maybe they haven't worked with me, they haven't worked with another animal communicator, how would they how would you know that this would be something you might want to seek out? Like, I, as a practitioner now know, and I've already referred some people to you, but like somebody listening, like they might be going, well, how would I know that my animal might need this? They can't just come up and talk to me. I mean, you can hire me and we can talk to them, but it's like, how would you know? Maybe just gut instinct, or is there anything to watch for that might be an indicator? Just give us your wisdom, your intuitive wisdom.
I will. Well, that's a very good question. Let's see. I'm only pausing because I always have many things I could say. So,
absolutely.
Just choosing. Another thing I do want to say quickly before I answer that.
Yeah, definitely.
A pet human, an animal human connection is very deep, very strong. So there's mirroring that takes place. And that kind of an absorption, sometimes on the pet's part, of acting out things that the person is working their way through, or the pet's healing helps the person heal, the person's healing helps the pet's heal. So there are lots of dimensions that can be uncovered here. I will answer your question directly in a minute, and I will say, even though I'm very much about energy and can read energy to a certain extent, I'm very practical. And like a communicator, you want to get to things. So I think of this, even though it's energy work, I think of it as being actually very nuts and bolts and practical. So far, and I will answer your question, so far the animals...
Oh, not to worry.
So far, the animals who come to me, you make me laugh. So the animals who come to me, because I find you delightful, actually. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So the animals who come to me usually are coming to me through vets, because I've reached out to the vet, I've offered some sessions, because they know, and the person knows, the animal has an aggression issue that's creating problems that the vet can't really solve, even with maybe the pet is on meds, the animal's on meds with a more conventional veterinarian, maybe they're on a homeopathic, whatever. Or the animal has a whole lot of anxiety and fear. I actually think that's very common. In sometimes, and it's a spectrum. It could be slight. So let's say somebody might know because their animal's afraid of really loud noises and it causes them problems. Their animal's afraid of strangers. Their animal's is leash aggressive. Their animal is afraid of people who they don't know who comes in the house. The animal barks all the time. The animal has physical issues because I am working next week with a dog who has seizures. So sometimes someone will come to me because there's a physical issue. Again, mostly a vet has sent them to me. I will say that one vet I do connect with speaks with animals. I don't think she calls herself a communicator, but she does start her sessions by asking the animal what they need, and she's very good. And sometimes the animals, because they're telepathic and they know what she can offer, they might say, they're either saying they could work with me, or they might say they need more help. They want to be more confident, they need more help. So someone who's hasn't referred to me all the issues I mentioned, litter box issues. I mean, some pets, I imagine, I'm allergic to animals, so I don't have one right now, but I've interacted with them a lot. But, you know, some animals know everything's great and everything's great in the family and they're great with the kids and they're great with visitors and they're happy and they have adequate exercise and great diet and whatever. But a lot of animals aren't, and a lot of people who are, not everybody, they don't have to be, but many pets are rescued. There's an overabundance of abused and abandoned and neglected animals. So those are some of the ways someone would know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's, you know, it's so interesting because I'm thinking to myself, as you're talking about all these different animals, I'm thinking, how many animals do I know that are like what you just described? Like they're healthy, they're happy, they have adequate everything or even abundance of everything. And I'm literally, I hope, you know, it's like, of course, I would hope my own animals fall in that category, but you know, Flash certainly came into our life and he had already had trauma. My Pearl, I share that in my book, Love and Feathers, what a palm-sized parrot taught me about life, love, and healthy self-esteem. It's 200 and something pages. So I've learned a lot from this bird that was nest bullied. But before I met him, he was already missing 3 toes and part of his left wing. And so it's like these animals come into our life and you know, it would be hard pressed to identify anyone who doesn't have at least a single trapped emotion or something going wrong with their physiognomy somewhere for some reason, because, you know, we don't, as much as we might like to believe it, we don't come here for an extended vacation. We come here to learn. Yes, there are vacations involved, thank goodness, but we come here because there are things that are, you know, at least the part that we understand about why we come here is that we want to unfold, we want to evolve, we want to find all the bells and whistles and see what we're made of and what we can do, and that involves overcoming some of the bumps and bangs on the head along the way. And so it would almost feel like it's just a gimme, like is there anybody who wouldn't benefit from releasing emotions and being able to do it and you know, kind of easing through some physical stuff maybe that they know it's there but they don't know why. And I'm increasingly intrigued by the intersection of the body and the mind and emotions. I mean, that's where animal communication happens. And I also am becoming increasingly intrigued with all of the different ways that animal communication happens, because it's not just about the folks that wear my particular hat and say, well, I talk to animals. It's a lot more than that. And animal communication happens in many different ways for many different purposes to serve that animal's highest good. And whether we call ourselves that or not, there is communication going on when there's somebody who's not peeing where they're supposed to be peeing in the designated cat bathroom or the dog toilet or the the parrot potty or whatever it is. It's like there's communication going on, and the work that I do is one piece of it. As a Reiki master, I'm wearing a different hat. You as an emotion and body code practitioner, you're wearing a different hat. Are we all communicating? Absolutely. Is the holistic vet communicating? Absolutely. Are these dog trainers that are walking, at least learning the basics of animal communication, are they communicating? Absolutely. Are you allergic to pets, but you're gobbling up episodes on this show because you're thinking maybe there's another way I could work with them? It's like, yeah, there is. There are lots of ways you can benefit the lives of animals. You don't have to have a pet. That's not a requirement. Not everybody can have a pet. Not everybody has a partner who can have a pet or a child who can have a pet. Doesn't mean you can't be a part of animals' lives and make an impact. So really take that in. Really, if you're listening or you're watching and you're like, why am I listening to Let's Talk to Animals? I don't even have a pet. It's like, well, think about that. There's a really cute movie, and I can't remember. I think it's called Unleashed, and it's, of course, now the stars' names have completely flown out of my head now that I'm trying to talk about it. But it's on. I wrote a blog post about my 4 favorite animal communication movies, or maybe it was my 3 favorite, and it's on the list. So you can go to animallovelanguages.com, find that blog post, and it'll be there. But she was living with a partner who was really highly allergic, and spoiler alert, when they broke up, she got these animals, and it was like the point is she was going to the shelter and she was getting involved that way, because her partner couldn't have. So it's like there are so many avenues for us, and the more we make a difference for our animals, the more we find out that was really loud. The more we start getting involved in the lives of the other species around us, the more we come alive ourselves, and the more connected we feel. We don't feel like an invasive species anymore. We start really actively caring at a whole new level, because we start to realize how powerful we are, and that we really can make a difference. And we can, in these small ways that seem so like it just one finger in a leaky dam. It's like, yeah, but we only have 10 fingers, but the people living next to us, they have 10 fingers. It's like we just all have to use all of our fingers. That was a really bad analogy, but we have to use it's like we do our part, and then slowly everybody starts to wake up. So that was a long-winded, not very well put together. Just do the thing, because you're needed, totally needed, and appreciated for every little tiny thing.
And I totally followed everything you said. And
I'm so glad to hear it. I don't think it was easy.
Oh, no, it's easy to follow. A couple of things I'll throw in here, and then I don't know where you want to go. But, sometimes a pet is doing an animal. I'll say an animal because they're not really ours. Sometimes they're doing very well, and then a fellow animal companion dies in the family, and they go into a deep depression or whatever. That can happen. I will also add, and that's another case that this could be helpful.
Absolutely.
So I'll add, I have had animals in the past, and I fed a small tribe of feral cats in the park for 6 years. And I did have a cat who I rescued for about 4 years. So I have lived with them, and certainly they have been my teachers, some of my greatest teachers, I will say. Yes, so I'll pause there and see kind of if there's a place, Love Pearl, where you want to go.
I've also gotten more and more interested in the intersection of what you were talking about just a few minutes ago, Kezia, which is the pet and the person who mirror or model for each other. And, I just don't think it's any accident how out of so many millions of people and so many millions of pets that the specific ones find each other, like out of all of the cockatiels in the world, how my precious Pearl and I found each other, or how Flash came into our family, or my tortoise Malty, or my box turtle Io, or it's just, and if you're listening or watching and you're thinking about your own story with your animal, and some of our animals, the relationship isn't easy. It does become such a great teacher, like you were just saying. And so sometimes the call may be, how can I help my animal by healing myself, by starting to work with myself? Because our animals are literally marinating in our energy 24/7. And yes, they love us unconditionally, but yes, trust me, as when I say as an animal communicator, we can be stressful companions for them. And that, that energy is not always a pleasant marinade. And so when we start to elevate our emotion, when we start to dial down the drama and dial up the inner peace and the poise and the the word that you were using, the congruence, is that right? Congruency between our insides and our outsides, which is kind of a life's work for me. I want my insides and my outsides to match, because I feel like that's the best way that I can serve myself and everyone else. It's like the more you start working with yourself, releasing your own trapped emotions, trying to, improve your health on all levels, physical, mental, emotional, and at the connective point, spirit, whatever you want to call it, we serve everyone. So maybe you're listening to this episode for yourself today, and your animal can benefit whether you use it for yourself or you use it for them, or you work at both levels, and so we're kind of drawing to a close here, but I definitely want people to know how they can work with you. How can they find you, and what you recommend for somebody who has never had a session before, they've never experienced this before.
Yes. So my website, and I don't really recall if you have links. I think you do.
Oh yeah, I'll put the links in the notes as well. Yeah.
My website is openintochange.com, and my contact info is there. Email, people can contact me via email. I work with people, humans. I work with, and that includes children, could be infants, but I haven't done that yet. And animals. Have worked with horses, dogs, cats, a mule, not others yet, but I would love to. So I do offer, if someone is interested, I wouldn't really expect them to just go ahead and book the session. They don't know how it works. I've given a brief explanation. So if someone feels interested, then they email me. We set up a call time. We connect by phone. They tell me more about their animal. And occasionally the animal has told the vet I've mentioned that actually their person could use it. So occasionally I've had clients come to me through the vet. But in any case, someone would contact me, human or for the animal, and then we set up a short call. They tell me more about themselves or their animal. But I love working with animals. I love. And then I explain more fully how a session works, what the release technique is. And then if they want to go ahead, then they have a choice. They go ahead or not, but usually they go ahead, but no pressure. Then they go ahead and set up a session, and we do a session at another time. And the sessions can be between an hour and an hour and a half. And I try to keep the prices because with an animal, sometimes, and certainly with a person, but that's up to them. With an animal, the best results are maybe a couple sessions, several sessions. So I'm always upfront about that too. So people can connect via my website, and then again have a complimentary call where I explain more.
Well, that sounds just perfect. And hopefully, if you're listening or you're watching and you're interested, then you've gotten a little overview and, of course, a little bird's eye view of how it can work with one animal, with our dachshund Flash, who has really benefited. And we've done a couple sessions for him now. And so, and of course, you and I keep in touch so I can share some fun stories about kind of different things that we're seeing. And it's it's a part of a whole care team that we've assembled for Flash that includes a holistic vet, and includes a traditional vet, and includes the emotion code, and includes Reiki. He loves Reiki, includes chiropractic and acupuncture, a very, very well-balanced holistic fresh foods diet, and animal communication, last but not least. And so when you consider all of that, it's like he has more care practitioners in his corner than I do. But that's also where, we get what we give, and the investment is a healthier, happier, more loving, brave, open, and confident dog. And that is worth its weight in gold. So
Yes.
For those of you who are interested, it's definitely, I always recommend the same thing for animal communication. I hired animal communicators for years before I realized that I could do this and I wanted to do this. And that gave me a really good entree, gave me a hands-on experience, because I'm a very experiential learner. If I haven't experienced it, it's kind of hard for me to figure out what you're talking about. So it's really good to just have, add these bucket list ideas to your to-do list. Like, I want to have this experience, I want to have that experience. And then you get the benefit, and you make some new neural connections, and you help yourself and you help your animals, you help the animals you care about. And so that's what I recommend. Just start, if you've never experienced animal communication and you're listening, come check me out. Come head over to animallovelanguages.com/podcast, and you can check out the amazing guests that we've had on the show. And if you want to experience emotion code and body code, openintochange.com. And we're building a team of believing eyes and open hearts and trusting spirits who know that healing leads to amazing levels of brave and a lot more joy and a lot more positive change, which is what our planet really needs from us. So Kezia, thank you so much for being a part. I really appreciate your time and your investment in the emotion code and the body code, and your investment in the well-being of the people and the animals that you serve. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you. And I'm going to quickly add, I studied animal communication a little bit, and I do sometimes send clients to communicators because it's a compatible thing.
They're very compatible.
Very. And also, if I'm working with a physical issue, I'm always relying on that information going to the vet or the person taking it to the vet. I'm not prescribing, I'm not doing anything like that. But I can uncover some things the vet might not. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, it's really important. We want to wear our hats. We don't want to wear somebody else's hat. It's like those disclaimers, they might not be the most fun part of a session, but they're really important. The other thing I want to say is it was really fun working with you with Flash, because I'm an animal communicator. Like, that's the hat I was wearing. We can do both, but I was wearing my animal communicator hat. You're wearing your emotion and body code hat. And, you would say to me, hey, are you getting anything? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm seeing this weird vision of, this man in the 18th century or whatever, and it's like, and we were able to muscle test that. We were able to trade ideas back and forth. It was really fun. And I would love to see more of that kind of collaboration going on in the greater field to which we both belong. So, all right, my dear ones, we've so enjoyed being with you for another episode of Let's Talk to Animals. Please do the thing, rate, subscribe, send a positive review, send a question, send a request. We'd love to hear from you. And please join us again next week for another amazing guest here on the show. Okay, bye for now and lots of love.
Bye.